Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Student of the Game. I am Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game. And listen, if you're here, chances are you like talking sport, and we love that you're doing it with us here tonight. Us tonight, we can talk good. Now, listen, I have to tell you, there's the reason why I'm getting jumbled up here is there's so much going on this week. Of course, we're doing our weekly episode here, and we'll get Huddle Up's very own Mikey the Bernier here to chop it up a little bit. Because while the Stefon Diggs trade happened last week, just after this particular pod aired, there is a lot going on with that. Of course, I commented it at length on the Duval dive with my guy, Travis Holmes. Bing! See, I'm getting my voice back. That was a good bing. Anyway, so with that in mind, of course, we'll be talking about the Josh Allen signing and him getting his bag on the Duval dive on Friday. So look out for that. Bing. Then also, you've heard me wax poetic about the women's basketball tournament situation. Caitlin Clark, of course, did not win a championship, but the impact, all of this year's NCAA women's basketball action and the impact it's had would have been on this show. However, I'm talking about that as well as other things in the sports and entertainment space with none other than friend of the show and sports guy, whether he likes it or not, Tokyo Jameson, as well as the esteemed Essex O'Brien, making their return to the Student of the Game podcast. We're recording that tomorrow night, as this is a Wednesday, of course, to air on Friday. So look out for that as well. That's a lot of big action. But yeah, what's left here to talk about? Like I said, we're going to go break down the Stefon Diggs trade. But first, a lot of other things that are crazy. I know we already live in the world where the Orlando Magic were at one point number 3 in the East in the NBA. And while granted, they're struggling a bit after a loss to the Bulls and are currently battling against a number 2 seeded Milwaukee Bucks team, for all the criticism that they faced, and rightly so, you would think that they were in the cellar or something, still number 2 in the East. I don't know. Injuries are a funny thing. No offense, Philly fans nor Magic fans alike, but yeah, apparently for all the Doc Rivers woes, they're still 2 in the East, and granted, we all expect them to get bounced at some point, whether early or late is another conversation, but guaranteed it'll probably be Doc Rivers' fault in the opinions of many, but in Doc Rivers' opinion, it won't be his opinion. But enough about weird occurrences in the NBA. Let me go back to the NFL and speak to this. The recent announcement, of course, being that the Packers of Green Bay will be battling the Philadelphia Eagles in Week 1 in São Paulo, Brazil. Okay, that's a Street Fighter reference that I couldn't get it. But people have been responding to this as if this is some, what's the NFL doing now thing. Now, granted, one of my first articles ever, as a student of the game, and I don't mean us eclipsing 100 episodes on this. No. I mean, back when the studentofthegame.com was a thing. I mean, back when I was writing articles on my own that none of you probably read. But I had speculated at that time in, good God, that was a long time ago, 2024, 2023? No, excuse me, 23. That's adorable. 2003, 2004, about the game going international. You know, the NFL Europe was a thing. The first edition of the XFL, all this other stuff. Football was trying to actively expand, kind of like it is now with the UFL. But the talk of foreign football was in swing there. And all of that, you know, was a conversation, bringing me now to, of course, this latest thing in Brazil. Here's why I love it. And I'm not even, well, here's what you may want to think. No, love it. Love it. The NFL in its current form cannot really expand smoothly in terms of crowbarring in franchises, right? Not that the NFL is hurting for revenue, but don't expect them to be like the NHL or MLS were at one point where, you know, a city at a point would buy a toaster and you get a free franchise as part of the sale. You know, it's something like that where the NFL expanding right now would muck a lot of things up. If there was a 33rd team to be added, it would throw off the structure of the playoffs with the divisions and the conferences, right? the whole 8 divisions of 4 teams in the 2 conferences just works bleeding perfect. And I've waxed poetic before that in order to get another solid balance, you would basically have to add 8 more teams, right? In other words, so you would have 2 conferences of 5. Now, there's other ways you could do it, and I'm not here to get the nitty-gritty of that, but adding 1 team, pretty much not an option. So when people talk about, well, where are they going to expand next? I don't think it's going to be a single city scenario. Now, that being said, don't rule out relocation. I don't know how long Green Bay is going to have a franchise, but is Green Bay, Wisconsin meant to have an NFL franchise for the rest of human existence? That's a separate conversation for another show, but hey, they're faking it so far. That being said, international games are the only way that the NFL can truly expand without expanding. And having everybody do their international time, so to speak, throughout the league to help give foreign fans their fix of NFL action is a smart way to do it. But what they're also doing is examining other venues. Now, Sao Paulo, for all its economic issues, at some point was involved with the hosting of World Cup games back then. And I get it. The World Cup ending up in Brazil. What the? FIFA being corrupt? Whatever do you mean? Yeah, exactly. That's how we ended up with Qatar hosting games and stuff. But I digress. No disrespect to Qatar, but who's trying to play soccer in that much heat, right? But what I'm trying to say is this expansion for international play is setting the table for the NFL at some time to make another big move. Now, I'll grant you, it's probably at least a decade away. I will say this, and we've had others on this show, including friend of the show, Colin Cronin of the Irish NFL show. Bing! See, Colin got a bing, and he's probably not even awake right now. That's talent. At least as this is getting recorded, because, you know, time zones are a thing. But he has stated that expansion into Europe is problematic because of their tax structure, which is fascinating because over and above that, there's the travel to consider too. However, what about in the Western Hemisphere where such expansion would be an economic boon of sorts, and it wouldn't go away because it's an event that happens every 4 years? Ladies and gentlemen, I remind you, 4 of the top 10 most attended regular season football games were in Mexico City. Sao Paulo is on the list. We've heard rumors abound about teams relocating to Toronto or Canada. I mean, hell, the NBA has Canadian teams. Well, I mean, it used to be plural. Vancouver's not a thing anymore, but okay, that's cool. The Raptors still exist, allegedly. I know. They won a championship a while back, but what is Kawhi Leonard? What have you done for me lately? That's what I'm asking. Anyways, say all the above to say, I think we're sleeping on Western Hemisphere international expansion. Now, granted, I know that not every country has the U.S. economy and has the same rules and all of that. But listen, getting just a fraction of football fanhood and passion to invest in the NFL. Again, may I remind you, before Jerry World was a thing, Mexico City, in a game that was against an awful pair of franchises at the time, in the San Francisco 49ers and Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, I said it. Listen, Tim Rattay versus Josh McCown as the quarterbacks, okay? It was awful back then. Just deal with it. Facts of the case are these. I'm wearing my 49ers hat, and I can handle the truth. What about it? By the way, how the Super Bowl go, all you rest of you NFC people? I said it. Anyways. Western Hemisphere expansion, I think, is the key to whatever a minor league should look like. And I get it. The UFL's doing their thing to try to be a feeder league. That's different in that you're trying to execute what would be kind of a minor league or a G league, like baseball or the NBA would do. I'm telling you, it's going to be a scenario similar to foreign ball with football and basketball as they currently have. And it does exist in some places. It's just not on that same level or echelon of corporate figures. So is Sao Paulo a guarantee that that's going to work? No, but I think it's a fine experiment for something we're not talking about yet. And who knows, if that goes well, we could see a merger one day where the NFL expands beyond 32 teams and we get those 5 divisions and 2 conferences with 4 teams like we talked about. It ain't going to be for at least a decade. My hair will probably be far more gray than it is, but I can't take it off the table, and I prop the NFL for thinking big to make sure we see an NFL in all the entire nation for an extended, or an entire world for an extended period of time. But by the way, speaking of worlds changing and things expanding, there was a particular move last week with Stefon Diggs leaving the Buffalo Bills that shook the NFL and the AFC all over. And for something like this, I need somebody that helps me properly award props and contextualize and compare things. And who better than the guy I go to help me do midseason and end of season awards than, albeit a Bengals homer, my favorite Bengals homer that there is. The Burn is in the building, but he's still not yet a towering Furrow. What's going on? Joe Burrow revenge tour. Mikey Burn of Huddle Up Inc. What's going on? I mean, listen, you're celebrating. I don't know what the hell you're celebrating. Are you celebrating Cody Rhodes? Is that it? By the way, speaking of Cody Rhodes, happy 10 years to the 3 Count Thursday as well here up on the Huddle Up Network here. No, Huddle Up night here, bitches. What? So, anyways, welcome in, Mikey Burn. How you doing, man?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Man, listen, I got to tell you, as somebody who covers the Jags, and as much as we talked about Stefon Diggs, and that trade to the Texans, what I noticed that got this train of thought thinking is, even though the Duval dive, focus on the Jacksonville Jaguars and the AFC South, we were broaching into topics that were NFL wide, man. But walk us through your initial opinion of what the Diggs trade does for the Texans. Let's get that part out the way.
I mean, it just gives another weapon to that offense. Last year with Tank Dell and my good cousin Nico Suave, you add that weapon now in Stefon Diggs to the pieces that they have there. The other addition to that offense this offseason, Joe Mixon leaving Cincinnati, going to Houston. That's another weapon, with playoff experience. And, you're putting some guys who have some experience in going into the playoffs consistently and making runs around the young quarterback in CJ Stroud and getting better and better in that regard. So the first thing that went through my head was, if this is not all in for the Houston Texans right now, I don't know how much further all in is.
First of all, that's what she said. And second, there's one other franchise I can think of that has done things like this, and that's the San Francisco 49ers, right? But what did both squads take advantage of? By the way, can't help but notice correlation in their newest coaching acquisition there in D'Amico Ryans, who was coaching MVP, or excuse me, co-coach of the year, if it was allowed last year. You and I both agree. Oh no, you said Ryans, and I ain't mad at you. I talk trash, but I wasn't actually mad at you. Like, listen, you couldn't get mad at me picking Stefanski either. I mean, he helped the team do so good that their quarterback that got them to the playoffs stole the Comeback Player of the Year award from a man that, literally came back from the dead. But I digress. Yes, I'm still bitter, Mikey Burn. Anyways, speaking of Mikey Burn, it's a good thing that Damar Hamlin wasn't cremated. Anyways, too soon? No, but so, you make all these points. And by the way, let's not act like Dalvin Cook isn't down the street there in Houston working out to try to get a shot to play on that same field with Joe Mixon. I'm getting that whole Kevin Falk, Corey Dillon vibe with that Super Bowl, that Super Bowl losing team in the New England Patriots that was, 17 wins, 1 giant loss. It's a shame there's no Giants fans that I immediately can think of that would actually relish in that sort of thing. But
Nope.
Shouts to EJ Christian, our favorite Cowboy fan. But listen, man, I think first of all, this is the first domino I think that the Stefon Diggs trade exposes, and that's how bad the front offices in the AFC South have been, and how they've been bailed out by good players, right? Specifically, the Colts. Jim Irsay did what he did and did it as well as he did because he had Andrew Luck. The Jags lately have been carried by Trevor Lawrence and an influx of veterans and a solid coaching job with Doug Peterson. We're going to see how Mike Vrabel can apply the Marvin Lewis defense. And you'll appreciate this, right? Everybody hated Marvin Lewis. Oh, you can't get past the first round of playoffs. What happened when he got let go? Wasn't great until Zach Thomas and Joey Burr got, not Zach Thomas, I'm sorry, Zach Taylor and Joey Burr got, whatever, Zach Thomas is great too. Shut it. You should be so grateful, okay? Goddamn Bengals fan. Hush. No, but you see where I'm going with that, right? Mikey Byrne, like there were things that were hiding. And listen, you as a Bengals fan know exactly what I'm getting at, not only with your own franchise, but seeing how the Texans in part were bailed out by the Browns and what is having made one of the arguably worst moves in sports history with Deshaun Watson, right? Like that, I think to me, that's kind of the first thing that Stefon Diggs's trade exposes is how much the Texans front office has turned things around. It's one thing to get CJ Stroud and Tank Dell. Then, by the way, Will Anderson is also playing on you have three, not just starters, but stars playing on rookie contracts right now. This is what makes teams dangerous, man. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. If there's a front office that you have to give a severe round of applause to, it is
a severe round of applause. I like that. Yeah.
You get three stars, and I mean Tank Dell was super explosive till he tore his ACL, and he's just going to be even better now with Diggs there. But then on top of it, when you look at the acquisition of Stefon Diggs, trading away pieces that feel that they are now able to because they've hit home run after home run after home run in the draft. The draft pick compensation that they gave up for Diggs doesn't hurt as much when you have your top 10 NFL quarterback, when you have two, one really young on his rookie deal, another one who is just coming into his own and trying to get to that superstar level in Nico Collins. You mentioned Will Anderson. You mentioned the changes in the way the coaching staff is ran now under DeMeco Ryans.
By the way, to our points, sir, both student of the game, offensive and defensive rookies of the year, yes?
Correct. So I look at it from this perspective. The Texans had a opportunity. They were at a crossroads. It was stay with Deshaun, post problem and deal with the kickback that they would get from the community, or it was find a way to move on from him, rebuild. And I don't know that anybody in Houston thought the rebuild was going to take this fast.
Houston? Nobody anywhere. I mean, especially Houston because of the fans. But, bro, are you kidding me? Remember, Texans fans saw me, the student of the game, as an optimist for picking 7 wins last year.
Yep.
I was insane, especially talking about how the Titans wouldn't have a winning record. Boy.
When you're right, you're right.
I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen. You listened, though, Mikey Byrne. Let's anyways.
When we finally figured out that Ryan Tannehill is Ryan Tannehill.
Well, in fairness, I mean, listen, I don't want to make this a Titans podcast, but Ryan Tannehill aged, and that was his biggest problem. Like, the physical part of his game was a big part of it, and it was on its last legs when he got to Tennessee, thanks to the way that his protection was absolutely awful. I wrote about it at detail and had an editor that agreed with everything I said about it in Twan Staley. when I was writing for the Dolphins Wire. Is that too big? Yeah, I'll do a single bing. Bing! So with all that in mind, like, Tannehill's only where it starts. Then Malik Willis, a pick that I appreciated that they made at the time, isn't panning. And now you're left with the mayonnaise messiah, who apparently you think you could throw some talent at and chuck and pray, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, continue.
Huck and Chuck at football, the Will Levis playbook.
I mean, you know.
So
it sounds like a playing of NFL Blitz where you hit the bomb for every play.
Yes, correct. But when you look at the stuff on Diggs trade, this is a move, and you've mentioned it has the ripple effects. What else happens now that this trade? You know, there are more questions for me in what is Buffalo's idea than
that's where I was going to take it next. Keep going.
What's going on with Houston? I think Houston, we've accustomed. Okay, they're going all in. This is their. They think that they have a window here. Maybe sign Diggs to an extension at the end of the year, etc.
Well, let me ask you this point blank, and I think I know the answer, but I'm doing this so we can transition to the Buffalo side. Like, the Texans are the odds-on AFC South favorite today. Yes, I know it's April. No draft yet. Blah, 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 blah. They're the favorite right now, right?
Correct.
Okay. With that being said, I'm somebody when the Diggs trade from Minnesota to Buffalo happened, I called it somewhere out there on YouTube. There's a video that I did on Haps. I don't know that app is still even a thing. That's how long ago that trade happened. But I said that Stephon Diggs would remove all doubt and become an NFL best quarterback. And here we go. Since then, Stephon Diggs has played with Gabe Davis, who I would argue is his most consistent and best, supporting cast. Then there's other guys like Cole Beasley and guys like that jump in there. But Stephon Diggs has been carrying the receiving portion of that air game for however long, and now he out. Do you see Josh Allen regressing?
I mean, I think there has to be a natural regression based off of the fact that not only is Stephon Diggs no longer there, but neither is Gabe Davis, who you mentioned. They lost both of them. Honestly, aside from the tight ends of Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, I don't actually know whom is going to be the opening day 1 and 2 wide receivers for the Buffalo Bills. It would seem like they are probably in the ballpark of trying to draft a wide receiver.
Yeah, I'm about to say, quick note for GMs that haven't figured it out yet. If you need a wide receiver and Buffalo's ahead of you, you better trade the hell up. Just saying.
Yeah, because you ain't getting them.
That's right.
You ain't getting them. And if you think that they might trade up, you better call whoever's on the clock and trade up.
Yeah, I mean, be warned, fools.
Yeah. I don't necessarily know what Buffalo's mindset is here. Obviously, I don't think that there's a way they get into the top 3 to get Marvin Harrison Jr.
Oh, yeah.
Don't necessarily believe
they're not going to get Odunze or the kid out of LSU. They're not going to get any of them. I feel confident.
Yeah. No, I would say you're out on probably the top 3 wide receivers. 4, 5, 6, you can dabble in and depend on if you want to risk trading up to draft one of them or see if they fall to you at, I think they have 26 or something, 28.
You're hoping to do something like for a comparison to get a Gabe Davis that pans better than Jerry Jeudy did.
Correct.
Right.
So yeah, this I think naturally, because I don't actually know, did Buffalo really make any moves at the wide receiver position, or are we going with like Isaiah McKenzie? And
they did not, Mikey Byrne, which is again why we make the comments we made about the draft, sir. But granted, there's still time. Respectfully, they could find a way to make a move for T. Higgins or Brandon Ayuk. So I mean, for an example. So there's that, but
I have my own T. Higgins thought processes, but
we'll get to it. Don't worry, I'm gonna bring him up. I actually wrote an article about that in the Jaguar Report. Bing! So trust me, we're gonna go there because I had to get that bing in there. And if there's half the reason you're here was T. Higgins, even though this is a Stephon Diggs topic. But this is how the talent fool is what I do. Go ahead, Mikey Bird.
Yeah, so obviously I think Josh Allen takes a step back. I think he'll still have a good year. Let's not take that away, but I think it's going to be more of a he's not going to be able to throw those home run balls, which is his game. His arm strength is his game.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to almost quick passes, get the ball into players' hands because he's not going to be able to sit there and just sit back and wait and wait and wait.
So like what he did for most of the Kansas City playoff game until he tried to hit the home run and lose the game. Essentially. Correct. Right? So, and here's the thing. Here's what I get worried about in the case of the Buffalo Bills, Mikey Byrne, in that they were like, hey, we were good until Josh effed up the rotation. And hey, you know what? They convinced themselves that Diggs is addition by subtraction, which a lot of people are apt to point out. I mean, EJ Christian among them, and I'm not saying this to diss them. There is some there that Stephon Diggs wasn't happy. And I had a conversation with I forget who it was now. But long and the short is somebody had mentioned that they felt like Diggs was sort of a prima donna, sort of a prima donna. And I stopped him on one little thing. In that, is Diggs a prima donna, or was he a guy that was exasperated for having to carry a unit and still lose? Think LeBron James in Cleveland the first time, right? Now, granted, one could argue Stephon Diggs had more help than Josh Allen, but was instead cut short thanks to him. Think J.R. Smith in a playoff game with LeBron James. But is that more or less frustrating is the question. Exactly. So I say all the above to say Diggs, first of all, a wide receiver being a prima donna, say what? And two,
if you're going to call him a prima donna, I mean, I'll wear this one. I mean, revert back to last season, Brandon Allen and the Bengals, they're trying to stay in the playoff picture, and Jamar Chase literally has to go out there in front of the media and go, get me the football. I'm always open. I'm 7-Eleven. I'm always open 24/7. Like if Stephon Diggs wanting the football as being a prima donna, then I think we need to take a step back and readdress what people think is a prima donna. I mean, it's a competitive athlete who is a upper echelon member of their position trying to find a way to win football games.
But that's an interesting point. So was he saying that, first of all, I didn't see that happening, so thanks for bringing that to the show, but like, was he saying that to, was he putting that out in the universe with Browning at quarterback as a backup?
I think he was saying it. Yes, Jake Browning was at quarterback at that point.
Then what's Josh Allen's friggin' defense? He's allegedly the second best quarterback in the league, which I've always kind of not felt great about saying, but I'm just throwing it out there, man. But that's my point. That's why Diggs is frustrated. Is he's got allegedly the second best quarterback in the league. And no disrespect to my guy Gabe Davis, who I've been covering for some time, both all three in some form with Sports Media Pass, bing, with 3-point conversion, bing, with the black and gold banneret, bing. But Gabe Davis is not Stephon Diggs, and I think even he would tell you that. In fact, I know he would because he's a classy dude, But that's an interesting piece you added. But we mentioned, you say Josh Allen will take a step back. Let me ask the question better. Do the Bills take a step back? Do they actually miss the playoffs as EJ Christian and a lot of people thought would happen last year?
I think this year is in play for them to miss the playoffs. There are multiple reasons why. I think Jacksonville will be better.
You think they'll be better?
Yes, I do think they'll be better than they were last year. I think Houston will be better. I think that's just because I think they've distanced themselves from the other two teams in that division. I do think Cincinnati, with a healthy Joe Burrow, will be better. Pittsburgh's proven that with Mason Rudolph, Billy White Shoes Johnson,
Hey! You leave White Shoes out of this. He was a bad man pajama, bro.
Seneca Wallace and maybe the ghost of Sage Rosenfelds, that they can somehow make the playoffs.
Holy man, Sage Rosenfeld. I did what? Why you strays everywhere, man? Damn.
I'm unloading the clip right now. Next thing you know, I'll bring up
The only person I know who's caught more strays than these guys out of nowhere like this is Christian Kirk as being the de facto number one receiver. And now that everybody else has Calvin Ridley or Stephon Diggs, or now that moves have been made with the Colts, people are all criticizing the fact that Christian Kirk's a number one receiver, like as if that's a problem. I'm with it. Why am I catching all these strays? He says on Twitter. I'm just saying.
You said Christian. I thought you were going to go with Christian Hackenberg.
Bro, listen. I talk about people who win big games, which Christian Kirk has done. Okay,
I said it. You're right. So basically, obviously, I'm not as high on Russell Carrington Wilson as everybody else is. You can listen to that episode on the 3CT feed.
Ding. Well done. Huddle Up Inc. technically, but
Huddle Up Incorporated. But between him and Justin Fields, I think that it's obviously better than what they had at quarterback last year.
Well, and that's a good point. Yeah, you're taking me here. I'll cut to the chase and ask this: are the Steelers a more believable, even with your reservations about Russell Carrington Wilson, which, buddy, you can hate on it all you want. A, Russell Carrington Wilson is an upgrade to what they had. B, if he fails, as you're inclined to believe, Justin Fields is a hell of a backup plan for considering they got him for basically a pack of Skittles. All right. I'm cool with that. You know what I'm saying? So, but all that being said, considering all of that, are the Steelers in your mind today, again, no draft, it's April, are they a better playoff candidate than the Bills?
They are built better for the playoffs than the Buffalo Bills are.
Oh, bleep.
I think Najee Harris is been running more effectively.
Okay.
The two quarterbacks, whichever one of them is there. Pickens is better than any wide receiver that's going to be in the Buffalo locker room as of April 10th.
I mean, so are pretty damn low, but I hear what you're saying.
So it's one of those things where, and honestly, the defense of the Pittsburgh Steelers,
Micah Fitzpatrick,
could get them to a playoff spot with Small Hands or Mason Rudolph or whomever else that played quarterback for the Steelers last year. So
hard to argue.
Adding the offensive pieces that they've added in Russ / Fields, I think you have to say that they're better because you trust the pieces around the quarterback position more in Pittsburgh than you do in Buffalo. Also, there's a guy in Pittsburgh by the name of Mike Tomlin who, for some weird reason, cannot finish under 500. I think it's like somehow written in like stone or granite or
blood.
I mean, so when you take all of those into consideration, obviously Kansas City is still the team to beat. I mean, until beaten, they will always be the team to beat. But Baltimore's gotten better, adding Derrick Henry, another healthy year of Lamar Jackson. So, you have
Demetrius Jackson. So
you have the two of them.
By the way, get your guy to win a damn Super Bowl, and maybe I'll call him Joseph Lee Burrow, okay?
That's fine. so then you have Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Baltimore. All four of those teams are going to be competitive. The Jets, obviously, if we have longer than 4.25 seconds of Aaron Charles Rodgers, you have to consider that they would be better than Buffalo right now going into it.
Let me stop you there. That's what's interesting. Here's where I'm at with that. And maybe you can, and again, this is one thing where I think it's fair to at least, you got to get out the stud finder and point it at yourself to test it here. See what I did there? And this is one of those litmus tests, if you will, that makes sense when you think about Stephon Diggs' impact. Are the Bills still good enough to be second best in the AFC East, right? Because at days in, Miami's a threat. They're going to improve on defense in the draft. I feel compelled to think. So today, I want to see how that goes, right? Obviously, the Bills are in that division. Duh. But the Patriots, okay, not yet. Let Jaron Mayo get his feet wet first. And that's a 2025 conversation, maybe. But with the Jets, listen, and you heard me talk about this, Mikey Byrne. You pay attention to the student of the game, whether it's on the Huddle Up podcast, bing, or here on this show. You are gracious enough to listen to me on occasion. I have made no secret that I had injury questions about one Aaron Charles Rodgers in the offseason last year. Granted, much like I didn't have 10 wins for the Texans when I called 7, I didn't see Aaron Charles Rodgers giving us 17 full games. I expected more than 4 snaps, sure. But I don't see 17 full games from Aaron Charles Rodgers. Do you think the Jets would still have enough in the tank to pass up the Bills? I'm not so sure. And again, the draft is what's going to determine whether I answer that question.
I would say, like, if you give me 10 games of Aaron and then 7 games of whomever,
of whatever else, that's the tough part.
Who is the backup in New York right now? That's I think that's
it's not Tim Boyle, they're better off. I'm just saying. So long as it's not Zach Wilson, they're better off. I'm just saying. By the way, America, I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen. Anyway, so yeah, I get why you're bringing up the Jets. That's just where I sit. But that here's the thing. I guess what I'm saying is Miami just got a hell of a break with Diggs leaving the division, right? That's the 4th domino.
True. I don't love the fact that Christian Wilkins is now gone from that defense.
I mean, they listen. He wasn't going to do enough by himself. Parting with him is leaving enough capital to retool that defense. So I understand that.
The backup quarterback currently probably Tyrod Taylor,
which isn't bad when you think about it.
Because Zach Wilson is still on the roster
for now.
After the draft, we'll reassess that. So when you look around the AFC, I mean, I barring what Buffalo does in the draft, obviously, and if they make a move for a veteran wide receiver that may become available, depending on what teams decide to do, I would say that you would put them at the 2-3 in the AFC East, with them and the Jets. I feel are interchangeable as of today.
Mm-hmm. You're more optimistic on the Jets than I am. I have to say that out loud. I don't agree with you, but if I were on your page that the Jets were going to make that much damage, it's a good take. You're consistent.
Well, it's one of those where, like you said, Tim Boyle is not there. Tyrod Taylor is there. So if Rodgers is to miss games, Breece Hall is going to be healthy. Garrett Wilson is turning into being a very good NFL wide receiver.
Has been one.
He's getting better every week, every season. So that's why it's like I think it's closer than it was last year, because even if Aaron misses some games, at least I know the person that's back.
When Aaron
yes,
some games, and that's my point.
But at least I know that there's a serviceable backup that can be.
Yeah, poor Tyrod, man, dude. That him and Charlie Batch have in common that I think injuries wrecked what would have been a pretty serviceable, like Matt Ryan or better NFL career.
Yes.
It's funny. I treat Matt Ryan kind of like Ben Affleck playing Batman. That's the bar. If you want to be good, you got to be better than that. And if you aren't, you suck. How's that for are you feeling that comparison, Joey Burr?
I am.
I saw Joe Burr Revenge Tour and I lend with it to call you that, Mikey Byrne. I thought you'd dig that.
Just try.
By the way, for those who are listening on the pod tonight on the live stream, instead of Mike Bernier, his name is Joe Burrow Revenge Tour. I mean, perfect for a Bengals fan, but
yes.
The final piece I'll throw in for potential impact to the AFC The AFC specifically, Nick Wright, you don't count NFC teams in assessing whether somebody's a goddamn Super Bowl candidate in the AFC, you moron. Anyways, and I say this as a Nick Wright fan. I say it with love, but do better, man. Damn it, I'm so disappointed in that. Anyways, Nick Wright's clear Buffalo Bill hatred, notwithstanding, the Bills are definitely, we're saying that the Bills are lucky to be the number 2 in the AFC East right now because Aaron, it's funny. Pop quiz, Mikey Byrne, more likely to miss more starts in 2024. Aaron Charlie Rodgers or Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis?
Aaron Charlie Rodgers.
You think? Oh wait, so you think Aaron misses more games than the dude that in his rookie year couldn't start 10 games?
I don't necessarily know how many games Anthony Richardson misses this year.
Okay. And by the way,
I see him starting anywhere between 12 plus games, 14 plus games this year for Anthony Richardson.
I would also add for Richardson, his supporting staff, not typically limited with the reputation of being injury prone in themselves, like a Breece Hall, a Tyron Smith, et cetera, et cetera. Now, that's a great point. God, I'm not brave enough to say it, Mikey Byrne, but damn, you make a fine point in putting it that way, bud. I mean, you're the dude that picked the Lions to beat the would-be world champions in week 1. I can't take that away from you, sir. That reel is still on the Student of the Game Facebook page. Bing!
We love us some Man Campbell.
We all love some Madden Campbell. And if you don't, you're doing it wrong. Man, God, that you got me feeling warm there. With that in mind, it's not the beer, it is you, sir. That was a good take. But that being said, I'll put the Stephon Diggs thing and kind of hit you. First of all, one more pop quiz. More inevitable. Aaron Charlie Rodgers missing a game or Thanos? Thanos is more inevitable. Fair enough. With that being said, there was a take I had a while back on the Huddle Up podcast. You were part of it. We mentioned Kansas City and all that they did in the offseason. I make the argument that the Kansas City Chiefs had the best offseason in the league because when you are already the champions, there's only so much higher you could go. Now, granted, the Rashee Rice situation notwithstanding, we don't know what's going to happen there or what's going to take. Yeah, that I don't even want to touch that because
it looks like he's turning himself in at some point.
Right, but when you're leaving yourself in the hands of Texas law, boy, that's a question mark. That's all I'm saying. That being said, and I'm not even adding any other demographic or political implications therein that you and I can't talk about because of the way we look. But even though the best Trump impression we know is by somebody that is of a darker hue, but I digress. Shouts to my guy, EJ Christian. Anyways, so with all that being said, can I make the argument because it's harder for a team that's won the championship to get better? It's harder for a team that won the championship, hell, to just maintain. I can argue the Chiefs did that on paper. Do you agree? I got him thinking, folks. Look at this.
They didn't really lose much. Obviously, they didn't really add much.
Well, I think we're underrating the. First of all, they could have lost a butt ton. They did lose L'Jarius Sneed. They could have lost Chris Jones.
Yes, they could have lost more.
Him in the building is a big damn deal.
Correct. 100%. Right?
I would make the argument as a 49er fan, full disclosure, that Chris Jones alone saved the Super Bowl by having Brock Purdy miss a potential touchdown pass with intimidation. And that's no shade on the Niners O-line. Chris Jones is a friggin' badass.
Uh-huh.
So, over and above retaining Chris Jones, getting Hollywood Brown in the building is an underrated thing, man.
It's definitely an upgrade because Marquez Valdez-Scantling was on that roster at one point. Kadarius Toney's still on that roster at this point. I don't know why, but he's still
Say what
there.
you will about Hollywood Brown. I don't ever remember criticizing him for dropping the damn football.
No, that was never his problem. His problem was never his hands. It was health more time than not, especially his time in Baltimore. Obviously, yeah, I like the move. I would, if and I am a betting man, I would say that Kansas City is.
You are no. You're not a betting man. You're a degenerate.
Yeah.
I just wanted the opportunity to voice act. I'm not hating on you, my guy.
Yeah, no. I would say they're definitely the favorites in the AFC.
Well, sure. I'm not asking that. Well, because you're saying that, I think you're making my point for me a little bit. We'll play Mikey Byrne. Anyways, man, listen, this was a great. I meant for this show to mostly be a thought experiment, and bro, you Rod Jeremy nailed it. I appreciate you for that. By the way, when you can, tell your wife she did a good job with the hair dye thing. I thought it looked good. She's on Facebook all questioning it and stuff. So just I already sent her a nice message on Facebook. But if you could do that and let her know, man, listen, first of all, a happy wife gives you a better life, and everybody wins in that scenario, and she deserves the props anyway. So do all that. But anyway, let the world know where you can be found, Mikey Byrne.
Before I get there, T. Higgins.
Oh, shoot.
T. Higgins and a draft pick to Minnesota for Justin Jefferson.
You're out of your damn mind.
Goddamn right I am.
First of all, no. Second, no. Third, hell to the no. To the no. Hell no. But anyways, yeah, I'm over here like about ready to like let you know I'm giving your wife props and all this stuff, and I didn't ask you the question I want to ask you.
I do think he gets moved at some point. I don't know.
First of all, I know you're not that dumb. First of all, give me a bit more respect in the fact that I give you more respect than that, Byrne. What the? I almost cursed on my show. Like, bro, like for real. Here's the physics for those who don't understand. Joey Burr already has the bag. Gonna go full Joe Clad on that, and rightly so. Jamar Chase, bag. You can't have the bag tied to three guys on offense, especially when one of them is a number 2 receiver. And it's not that T. Higgins is a bad player. It's just Jamar Chase is a mamma jamma. Okay? So you can't afford to pay all those dues. That being said, I had proposed a number of trades for L'Jarius Sneed. Let me ask you if it would apply to T. Higgins. You're a Cincy fan. You'll get this. Packaging a 3rd or 4th round draft pick, call it a 3rd because it's the higher one, with Cam Robinson at left tackle for T. Higgins. You take it.
I believe I responded with this on your Twitter page when you put this on the Twitter.
I didn't say it for T. Higgins though.
No, you put something on the Twitter sphere because Antoine made the comment whenever I responded to it. It may not have been about Jacksonville, but it may have been about somebody trading for T. Higgins, and it was an offensive lineman coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, offensive line still needs to be addressed. You have, the guy that you are paying all that money to. You got to find a way to keep him on the field. That's 1,000% got to be in play, and if it's not in play, then what are we doing? So I was all in on getting pieces back that make sense. Oh, here it is. It's actually right here. It was not you, but you responded to it. It was Gus Louge.
Oh yes, of BigCatCountry.com, Travis's boss.
On March 11th, it was Cam Robinson and 48. Cam Robinson and 48 for T. Higgins. And I looked up and I said, you said, I dig that. What would you say? And I looked up and I responded with, I wouldn't hate it. Maybe add a 4th round pick in 25. And Travis was like, sold.
Dude, the Duval dive was all up in that beast. Okay. So what you're trying to say is bring it. By the way, that would also relieve a butt ton of cap space, which would get the Jags more active. But I think that ship has sailed. So maybe they could get Brandon Ayuk at that point. I don't know. Anyways, man, good show tonight, brother. I appreciate you. Hey, listen, by the way, this is a bit of a marathon for me. It's like I got tonight, tomorrow morning, I'll be at the Captain and Company morning show. That'll be fun. Then I have Tokyo Jameson and Essex O'Brien here talking about Caitlin Clark and the whole, women's basketball thing. And then also with Essex O'Brien being a primetime actor on a regular network, on a leading network, he's going to talk to me about the impact of having guys like Shannon Sharpe and things like that in the podosphere. That'll be interesting. And then, by the way, Friday, Duval Dive, the aforementioned Travis Holmes, Big Cat Country. By the way, Gus Logue's good people, man. I met him. I don't know that he was ready to see me at the stadium with credentials, but that's a whole other question. No, Gus is good people. I make jokes, but Mikey Byrne, tell the world.
You can follow me on Twitter at They Call Me Burn. You can listen to me talk about historical baseball fun on the Mount on the Huddle Up Incorporated feed.
See, now it's just awkward. I bring up your wife, and then you talk about the Mount. What the hell, dude?
You love it. Me and my good friend Jason, we talk about the Mount Rushmores of the Major League Baseball teams. We are wrapping up the national.
When you're ready to talk about actual sports, not games that Americans play, more than happy to participate in the Mount.
Oh yeah, we're gonna roll through all of Major League Baseball now. Then we're gonna start football. When we wrap that up, we'll take like a week off, and then we'll right into football. And I'm gonna definitely get you involved, especially for the 49ers, as well as probably the Jaguars, because obviously with all your work there, you'd have a little bit better of a pull for both of those franchises than myself and Jason. So. But we look forward to doing that fun stuff as we get
good people, by the way. I know I made a joke on the movie draft about him being a hater of fun. That's completely inaccurate. He's a cool guy.
So we have all that fun stuff going on. We have obviously Huddle Up Incorporated, the Take Three Wrestling podcast. Myself, Big Jim, and Joe just wrapped up WrestleMania. We have our show tomorrow.
I'll ask the question: like, everybody's pro Cody Rhodes.
There was 144,000 people inside of Lincoln Financial Field both nights that were all pro Cody Rhodes.
Rephrase the speech. I heard Triple H say, the fact I know who these people are is just proof of how good a stockholder I am of WWE without watching episodes of it on a regular basis. Hey, listen, the dividend is effing amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You almost got me to curse about stocks on my sports show, Mikey Byrne. What the hell?
That's what I do.
Hey man, I'm not hating. I'm appreciating. You're tapping the passion. It's a good thing you host a show called The Mount. Anyways, so that's terrible. Anyways, no. With all that in mind, greatest WrestleMania of all time was what Triple H say. Do you agree?
Let's see. I've been to 13 out of the last 14, and the only one that I haven't gone to was because of the pandemic.
Oh, dude, I didn't know you traveled like that. Holy snap!
Yeah, I would. If it's not number one, I would have it no lower than number 3.
Give me the EJ Christian answer. How about you give me an answer that isn't you hugging the fence?
If I can give you that answer as soon as I actually rewatch the show.
Fair. By the way, this is waiting for you on 420 when you come to town. By the way, for those who are listening on the podcast, I am hanging a bag that is a gift for my dude, Mikey Byrne, something that each of the members of Huddle Up Inc. at Disney World. Holy snap. It's almost a week away.
Wild, right?
Yeah, crazy. An honor, joy, and privilege to have you and Mikey Byrne. Once again, having entirely more fun than I intended. I almost cursed on my show no fewer than 3 times, and one of them about stocks. Damn. I'm just saying. But, of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Threads, and Instagram at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a student of the game. Check out my writing with the Black and Gold Banneret, the 3-point conversion, and Jaguar Report, as well as my work covering the Orlando Magic on A7 BN Sports. I'll be in the building there on the final home game for the Orlando Magic, where they host the Milwaukee Bucks. Probably going to be a big deal, that. So check that out. Of course, I've already pimped that there will be a special bonus episode this week with Tokyo Jameson and Essex O'Brien talking about women's basketball, and then the turn of sports entities becoming a big deal in the podcasting space. Sports guys turning entertainment. We'll talk Shannon Sharp, I'm sure. We'll talk Kelsey Brothers. Bro, if you didn't hear the New Heights with Arnold Schwarzenegger on it, effing do it, Mikey Byrne. That was great. Of course, the Duval Dive on Friday where we talk about the Josh Allen extension. I know there were a few extra things I pimped there, but it's a big week for the student game. By the way, next week, Locked On Magic's Philip Rossman-Reich will be on to talk about the Magic being better than they have been in how many decades? That's going to be a big deal, of course, to also be talking NBA playoffs. That might be the bonus episode. So look out for that. There's going to be a whole lot going on as we creep closer to draft week. Mikey Byrne, thank you for coming in. But until next time, everybody, class dismissed.